I've been trying to process what's been happening in the world. I've been trying to figure out what to do and say that could be helpful. I wanted to put together a video with my thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as promote a few foundations that I believe are making a difference. In this video, I explain my own racial background and share some views and feelings about the Skate for Solidarity protests that I took part in. This is a family-owned, family-friendly brand. I really want this to be a platform for good and inclusion. I felt the need and urge to speak up. I hope this comes across well. It's meant from a good place. The Black Lives Matter movement has provoked me to do a lot of reflection. I've been trying to educate myself and have been doing a lot of thinking and introspection. I've spent countless hours trying to sort out my thoughts and know exactly what to say. And honestly, I still don't know what to say. I'm obviously not black. I cannot directly put myself in their shoes or perspectives. I want to be sensitive to that. I don't have a political, law enforcement, or economic background. I don't have any answers for the injustices or how to fix any of the systems. This isn't a political channel or platform. This is just my little skate company, but I felt the need to say something. In amongst the coronavirus, social distancing, staying at home, and everything going on, people are waking up to the inequalities and prejudices. I'm glad that conversations are happening and people are becoming more informed about the injustices. I hope that this momentum continues. Positive changes are happening, but there is still a long way to go. Yes, all lives matter. That statement isn't implicitly destructive, but when in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, it can be taken as undermining the message. It's not that Black lives matter, it's that Black lives matter. All lives can't matter until they feel as though their lives are treated with equality. They need our help in doing that. I have two nephews with diverse ethnicities, part of which is black. I'd like to think that they would have the same opportunities and outlooks as my other nephews and kids their age. It pains me to think that they might not. I want to promote foundations here in Utah that I believe are making a difference. If there's any takeaway from this video, it's to help support causes like these. As this is a skate channel, one foundation is built around skateboarding, the other around the hip-hop culture, two of my passions. I have personally interacted with these programs and their leaders and love the work that they're doing. They promote equality, opportunity, and meaningful programming for youth in our community. They are making a difference. First, Pushing Ahead, Utah's first nonprofit skate program for vulnerable youth, driven by skaters, dedicated to the skaters of tomorrow. By providing a nurturing and safe environment, they teach us skills that encourage youth to become confident individuals and build strong communities. Through their connections with Salt Lake City's youth organizations, they bring skateboarding to groups who might not otherwise have access to it. They provide skateboards and a small space for youth to learn new skills, express themselves, and meet new friends. Also, 1520 Arts. 1520 Arts is a nonprofit organization that showcases hip-hop arts as a viable path to success through practice, performance, and education. They provide after-school programming to underserved youth in Salt Lake County. Additionally, 1520 Arts provides hip-hop-based classes, workshops, and assembly programming throughout the county. By removing barriers to access, 1520 Arts is able to bring creative hip-hop arts programming to students who might not otherwise have access. Both of these programs have and continue to enlighten and enrich the lives of people of all walks of life, including those of diverse and cultural backgrounds. I donated a small amount to each of these foundations as well as the NAACP. The mission of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, is to secure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination and ensure the health and well-being of all persons. I encourage others to check out these programs and contribute if possible. I wanted to share some feelings from my own racial background and the small window into racism and oppression that I'm able to share. I'm a fourth-generation Japanese American. My family had a challenging time integrating into the American life. My great-grandpa was a fisherman in California. He was incarcerated in a Japanese internment camp shortly after Pearl Harbor during World War II. I'm half Japanese. My parents really encouraged me to embrace both of my nationalities and cultures. In fact, my mom did such a good job early in elementary school years, she got a call from my teacher. I had been telling the other kids in my class that I was special because I had two ethnicities. I was making the other kids feel bad because they only had one ethnicity. She had to have another talk with me. She was glad I was proud of my ethnicities, but told me to be nice to the other kids. Although I guess I got a little carried away, I'm glad that my parents talked to me about my cultural background. They made me aware of my differences and made sure I was empowered and proud of my culture. In elementary school, my 6th grade teacher held me back while the other kids went to recess. She told me that we were going to be reading a book about Pearl Harbor. She knew I was Japanese American, and she wanted to make sure I was going to be okay covering those topics. I really appreciate that she had the foresight and care to talk to me. I didn't really think much about it then, but looking back, I'm really glad that she did. We should be conscious of other people's feelings and cultures, as my teacher was. A lot of hurt can be prevented if we are mindful of those around us and are able to understand how they may feel in the given situation. In high school, I remember watching Pearl Harbor in Japanese class. I held myself together in class, but remember completely breaking down and sobbing once I got to my car. That hit super close to home for me. I didn't realize that I had those thoughts and feelings until then. Even though I myself didn't experience the trials of the internment camp and racism during that time, and have experienced little direct racism myself, I still feel the oppression in my heart and soul. It's hard to describe, but I carry some of the pain that I know my forefathers felt. Feelings of oppression and discrimination linger through generations, and don't easily fade. I have empathy for those that hurt, those that feel the pain of oppression. I can understand that many Black Americans also still feel the oppression of those that came before them. It's hard to explain it, but you can feel it in your roots. I know there is current oppression for many races, but especially towards Black people. With everything going on, they have the additional weight of also continuing to fight the battle of racism and inequality. I really hope that the current events will be a catalyst to change. I had the opportunity to participate in the Black Lives Matter Skate for Solidarity peaceful protest in Salt Lake City. I've never participated in a protest before, and I wanted to share a little bit about the experience there. So, like an idiot, I got confused and apparently didn't read the instructions for the protest event. I rolled into the Salt Lake City and County building on my board. It was completely empty, except for me, and one police officer sitting in his car. I looked at him, he looked at me. He was confused why I was there. Apparently, he had more intel in the event than I did. I continued riding into the center of the block, thinking either I screwed up or this was a very, very elaborate scheme to set me up. Either way, I felt like an idiot. I was just looking around for either skaters or possibly Ashton Kutcher hiding in a bush, going to pop out and tell me I was punked. Nope, just me and the cop looking at each other awkwardly. I wasn't going to stop. I just kept skating through the center of the empty city block. Luckily, there was a photographer posted on the corner. He informed me that I was at the finish line, not where we were supposed to meet up and start. Crap. So I threw down my board and pushed furiously down the road, going the opposite direction of the route, hoping I would run into the other skaters somewhere along the way. As I got closer to Liberty Park, I started seeing other skaters going in the same direction. Luckily, I didn't miss the event. I just made it super complicated for myself. Anyways, as I got closer, I started being joined by more and more skaters, people on and off boards, all gathering together at the heart of Liberty Park. People just continued to pour in. People were walking around handing out free signs, masks, and water. I was given a sign as well. At the heart of the crowd, there was skaters skating, someone talking on a megaphone, and the crowd was joining in on chants. After some time, we were directed to start moving towards the route. We all started moving pretty huddled together, all moving in the same direction. Right in front of me, there was a young Black man. He looked back and just took in the crowd. He said, "I had no idea that this many people would show up." I could see the awe on his face. I didn't know him, but I felt a strong sense of camaraderie with him. I can't put myself in his shoes or know exactly what he's been through, but at that moment, it seemed pretty powerful to him. It was, at least for me. Everyone continued moving through Liberty Park. The crowd started to break apart a bit, and boards started being thrown down. Skaters started breaking out of the crowd. I slapped my board down as well and pushed through the park. It was really cool seeing the massive amount of people pour out of the block and onto the main road. There was a wide variety of people. People on skateboards, rollerblades, scooters, bikes, some just on their feet. There were people of all ages, nationalities. We rode down the middle of the street and through many intersections. Cops helped to block intersections as well as bikers from the protests. There were people in cars chanting and showing their support. Free water and masks were handed out throughout the route. People on the streets and building windows cheered us on. We looped around City Creek and back to the city block. It was a massive amount of people that joined there together. People spread throughout the grass of the city and county building. Some sat down and refreshed themselves. Others continued to block traffic and chant on the street corner. Eventually, the guy with the loudspeaker helped to get everyone onto the grass and out of traffic. At that point, people started to disperse. As I was leaving the event, I skated past a group of cop cars and a bunch of cops. They were all yelling, "Have a good night," to the protesters as they were leaving. I yelled back, "Thanks, you too." So like an idiot, I couldn't remember where I parked my car. My wife couldn't come to the protest. She's the one that keeps track of things like my car and does things like, make sure I don't start at the finish line. The first time that I looped around the block and back to the city and county building, people had started gathering at the steps of the building. There was some sort of program going on. The second time I looped back around the city and county building, everyone was lying face down on the ground. They must have been doing the silent protest for 9 minutes to represent the time George Floyd spent pinned on the ground. It was cool to see the education and protest continue. I've never experienced anything like this before. I'm glad that I was able to go, and I'm glad that everything stayed peaceful. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself, and felt the camaraderie of those around me. It was a good way of putting my energy into a cause, supporting one another, and uniting our voices. People of Salt Lake City want our local leaders to hear our voices and know that changes need to be made. I hope that people who participated in this protest, witnessed it, or read about it in the news will be energized, motivated, and continue in these efforts. There are many things we can do to help. Here are just a few thoughts. Be sure to contact your local leaders and tell them your thoughts. Write them letters and send them emails. Voting for local leaders is just as important as voting for president. Be sure to participate in your elections. A lot of change starts with those you associate with, and the way that we raise our families. I think it's important to teach our children to be kinder to one another, and even when things are not popular, to stand up for those who are being oppressed. Get involved with your community and associate with positive programming. Be sure to check out and support foundations such as the NAACP, Pushing Ahead, and 1520 Arts. I hope this video comes across well. These are some of my perspectives, and I hope they're helpful. I encourage you to continue educating yourself. I encourage you to share your own thoughts and perspectives. I want to raise my son to celebrate and learn from other people's differences. I was raised multicultural. I'm proud of my heritage on both sides. I hope for an America where African Americans are not limited by their ethnicity, but are able to celebrate and feel empowered by their ethnicity and culture. I hope hearts are changed towards understanding, acceptance, and compassion. I hope that people will be able to be mindful and speak up for others. You all have my love.